She kissed me goodnight, then called her partner in crime. 3 more weeks, and the inheritance is ours. Tonight, she's in prison. I am Nathan Green. Location, Richmond, Virginia. It was a Sunday, late spring, just warm enough to crack a window. Birds outside, Emily humming in the kitchen, and me, brushing my teeth like any other morning, barefoot on the tile floor. Then it happened. I took one step toward the sink, and my knees gave out. Not a slip, not a trip, just nothing. As if the power had been cut from inside me. I hit the floor, hard. Toothbrush skidded under the cabinet. My chin bounced off tile. I tried to move. Nothing. No pain, no sharp crack, no burning nerve. Just a numb silence crawling up my legs like fog. Emily found me 5 minutes later. She screamed, dropped her coffee, ran to my side like a woman in a movie, hands fluttering, voice shaking. "Oh my God, Nathan, are you okay? What happened?" "I can't feel my legs." At the hospital, the tests were inconclusive. No trauma, no blood clots, no spinal injury, just a vague diagnosis. Possible early onset peripheral nerve degeneration. No one knew what caused it. No one could tell me if it would go away. And so, they sent me home, with a wheelchair and a prescription. Emily became my world after that. She bathed me, fed me, adjusted my pillows, held my hand when I cried for the first time in years. "You'll get through this," she whispered, brushing my hair back. "We'll get through this." And I believed her, because why wouldn't I? She was my wife, my partner, my safe place. But grief has layers, and even in paralysis, your body knows when something's off. I couldn't feel my legs, but I could feel the eyes on me, the schedule, the way she started giving me pills at the same exact time each day, never late, how the prescription bottle always had a fresh label, how she kept all the medical records in a folder I never saw, and how she'd started locking the medicine cabinet. I chalked it up to paranoia. I didn't want to be one of those broken men who accused their wives of things just because they were angry. So I stayed quiet, grateful, dependent, dying slowly but politely, until one night. I woke around 2 a.m., thirsty, restless. The apartment was silent, lights all off. Emily wasn't in bed. I wheeled down the hallway, the floor creaking beneath rubber tires. Light spilled under the office door. I stopped, didn't knock, just listened. Her voice was low, urgent, on the phone. "No, he doesn't know. The reflexes are fading just like you said. Another month, maybe less. He still thinks it's natural." Pause. "How long until it's irreversible?" My throat went dry. I held my breath. She was talking about me. The voice on the other end responded, muffled but clear. "Just keep the dosage steady. Once he's completely immobile, we'll start transferring assets." Emily whispered, "He'll never see it coming." I rolled away from the door, hands shaking. Not because I couldn't feel my legs, but because I realized I hadn't lost them. They were being taken. There's a difference between being disabled and being disabled on purpose. And once the thought entered my mind, I couldn't shake it. Every smile from Emily felt staged. Every pill she handed me tasted just a little too bitter. Every "you're doing great" sounded like a man's last rites. The next morning, I pretended everything was fine. She asked me how I slept. I smiled. "Better, actually." Inside, my stomach turned. That day, while she went to the store, I rolled into the bathroom, alone, and opened the medicine cabinet. She'd locked it, of course, but Emily never changed the hallway key code, and she forgot I used to be an engineer. 5 minutes later, I had it open. There were 2 bottles of pills. One with the prescription label I recognized, gabapentin, nerve pain relief, but the other, no label, just a tiny white bottle with a handwritten B52 on the cap. Inside, dull gray capsules, definitely not over the counter. I searched online for hours. Nothing came up under B52 supplement, but a reverse lookup on a toxicology forum brought me to something real. BZ52, experimental neuroinhibitor, tested for motor suppression in primates, illegal for public distribution, known for progressive neuromuscular failure when taken long-term. My hands started shaking. I poured out both bottles onto the counter. The capsules looked identical, but only one was real. She'd been mixing them. That night, I pretended to take my pills. I held them under my tongue until she turned away, then flushed them, slowly, one by one. The next 3 days, I ate clean. No capsules, no wine, no leftovers, just toast, water, protein bars I kept hidden behind the couch cushions. And on the fourth morning, something happened. As I reached for my water glass, my left toe twitched, just once, barely, but it moved. I stared at it like I was seeing a ghost. Bent down, touched it, whispered, "Move again." Nothing. But I didn't need it to, because for the first time in 10 years, I had proof. The paralysis wasn't real. It was engineered. That night, I started a journal. Not for memories, for evidence, dates, dosages, conversations, eye contact, inconsistencies. Every time Emily forgot to refill my gabapentin, every odd phone call, every visitor who stayed only long enough to drop something off. I wasn't recovering. I was reconstructing the crime scene, and the body in the center of it was still alive. On day 6, without pills, I felt tingling in both feet. Not pain, feeling. As I sat in the dark living room, pretending to be asleep, Emily leaned over and kissed my forehead. She whispered, "Just a few more weeks, my love, and then it's all ours." She thought I was unconscious. She didn't know I was recording. For the first time in 10 years, I wasn't her prisoner. I was her witness. I used to believe Emily loved me. Not in the dramatic fairy tale way, but in the quiet, Sunday morning kind of way. Coffee and crossword puzzles, shared silence. Now I knew better. She didn't love me. She owned me. And ownership is crueler than hate. It smiles while it breaks you. It kisses your cheek while it poisons your spine. Emily never had to lock me in. She just had to make sure I never believed I could leave. But she made one mistake. She thought I was still broken. The next week, I started a new routine. When Emily was home, I played my part. Limp wrists, dead legs, blank eyes. But when she left for yoga, or the store, or her secret phone calls, I trained. First, the basics. Wiggling toes, flexing calves, gripping the wheelchair rails until my knuckles went white. I fell. A lot. Cramped. Cursed. Sweated through shirts. But each bruise was a receipt. A proof of progress. I scavenged tools from the garage, resistance bands, a dusty yoga mat, ankle weights. I created my own rehab center, right there in our guest room. By day 15, without pills, I could stand for 8 seconds. By day 21, I could walk from the bed to the wall. By day 28, I stopped crying every time I took a step. Emily never noticed. She was too busy playing caretaker to the man she thought she'd permanently broken. Too busy inviting her mother over to discuss finalizing power of attorney. Too busy whispering into her phone at 2 a.m. again. This time, I recorded it, in full. He's eating less, getting weaker. We're close. Once the transfer's signed, we can schedule the trip. Pause. Yes, the same dosage. I'm not an idiot. I emailed that audio file to a secure cloud folder. Then I installed a hidden camera under the living room shelf. It activated on voice keywords: dosage, trust, alone, and my name. By the time the week ended, I had over 40 flagged clips. Then came the turning point. Emily brought someone new to the house. A man, thin, grey suit, clean-shaven, doctor-type face. He didn't look at me, just shook Emily's hand and gave her a plain brown envelope. I waited until they left. Inside the envelope, medical files, lab charts, blood panels, but the name on the doctor's stamp wasn't mine. It was hers. And the clinic didn't exist. That night, I confronted the mirror. I pulled myself to my feet, looked into my own eyes, said it out loud, "You're not sick, you're being murdered slowly. And if you want to live, you're going to have to kill the lie first." That night, while Emily slept beside me, I lay awake, fully alert. At 3:11 a.m., her phone buzzed once. She didn't move, but I did. I opened her phone using Face ID. There, in her email drafts, was an unsent message. To Attorney Benson. Subject, asset transfer approval. Nathan's health declining rapidly. Signature expected within 72 HRs. I looked at her, sleeping like she earned it. She thought I was 3 days from surrender. She had no idea. I was 3 steps from standing over her lies. Some people stab you once and run. Emily didn't. She smiled while she turned the knife. She brought me breakfast in bed. She kissed my forehead. She wrapped a blanket around me before going out to run errands. And every gesture said, "You need me." But now I saw the truth. She didn't want to care for me. She wanted to keep me incapable. That afternoon, I replayed the security footage. The man she brought last week, the one with the envelope. I froze the frame when he turned slightly toward the camera. Sharp jawline, silver glasses. He looked familiar. And then it hit me. He was at our wedding, one of the guests in the back row, a family friend I never really met. I pulled up our wedding video, scanned through the faces, found him, standing next to her mother. My stomach turned. I dug into public records. Took hours. Finally, Dr. Wesley Langford, licensed family practitioner, former ER specialist, currently operating a private diagnostic service in Virginia Beach. Registered mailing address, a strip mall with no signage. Clinic name, Langford Wellness Solutions. No official website, no social presence, but on LinkedIn, he listed one endorsement from Helen M. Crawford, Emily's mother. I called the number listed on his health provider profile. Disconnected. I checked my local insurance network. He wasn't on it. He wasn't a doctor for people who were sick. He was a doctor for people who needed a paper trail. That night, I left the house for the first time in nearly a year. Waited until Emily was asleep. No chair, just crutches. Every step burned, but every step was mine. I met Marcus, a former co-worker I trusted with my life. He hadn't seen me in 8 years. His jaw dropped when I walked into the diner. "You're on your feet?" "For a month now," I said. "I need your help." We created a plan. Marcus would run background checks, dig into property records. I'd keep collecting video, audio, pill samples, and we'd sync everything to a dead-drop cloud folder, locked behind 3 layers of encryption. If I went silent, he'd send everything to the press. 3 days later, Emily told me she had to visit her mom overnight. I said nothing, just smiled. And the moment she left, I opened her office drawer. Inside, a burner phone, a note, final authorization, Friday, Ehlers Langford's, and a flash drive labeled Nathan, decline timeline. I plugged it into my laptop. Video files, dates, charts, one labeled Test Footage, Stage 3. I clicked. It was me, slumped in the wheelchair, drooling, barely blinking. Emily speaking to the camera. At this stage, motor function is minimal. Reflex is gone, speech degraded. Within 30 days, he won't be able to sign anything. She smiled at the lens, like a proud scientist admiring her project. Perfect timing. I sat there in silence, gripping the desk. Behind the footage, I heard a second voice. Make sure it's done by the 12th. We'll move the rest into your name after the doctor signs off. That voice wasn't Emily's. It was her mother's. 3 people, 1 plan, and 10 years of my life as collateral. I found him through a blog post, buried in an old rehab forum. No flashy website, no smiling testimonials. Just 6 words under a black and white banner. They said I'd never walk again. I emailed. Got a 1-line reply. If you're serious, come alone. His name was Joseph King. Former Marine, former spinal injury patient. Current nightmare to any doctor who ever said permanent. He ran a private strength lab in the back of an old boxing gym, 30 minutes outside Richmond. No forms, no contracts, just sweat and pain and progress. And the first time I walked in, he didn't shake my hand, just stared at me, looked down at my legs, then said, "How long they keep you in that chair?" I answered honestly, 10 years. He didn't blink. That's not a medical sentence. That's a prison term. We trained in secret. After hours, always at night. No one else in the gym. It hurt. Everything burned. My muscles screamed from disuse. But Joseph didn't pity me. He pushed, harder than anyone ever had. On week 2, I collapsed mid-lunge, cursed out loud. He walked over, squatted beside me. "You weren't broken, man. You were broken down. That's different." I looked up at him, breathless. "You think I can beat this?" He smirked. "You already did. You're just not standing on the victory yet." While I trained, Marcus kept digging. He traced Emily's mom to 3 shell companies, all funneling payments to a consultant fund. He traced Langford's fake clinic to a P.O. box owned by a real estate trust, run by Emily. She'd built a whole ecosystem to launder the money she'd inherit. She was expecting me to die slowly and quietly. But I had other plans. One night, while cooling down in the gym, Joseph tossed me a bottle of water. "Who are you getting ready to fight?" he asked. I looked at him and said, "Not a person, a narrative." He nodded once, then said something I still hear every day. "Most people fight to survive. You're fighting to be believed. That takes a different kind of strength." By month 2, I could walk unaided for 5 minutes. By month 3, I was running on the treadmill at midnight, drenched in sweat and anger. On the wall above the weights, Joseph had a quote stenciled in black paint. "The body forgets nothing." That was true, but I had a new one. "Neither does the man they tried to bury." And the night before Emily's final clinic visit, Marcus sent me a single message. "Tomorrow's the day. She's going in for the kill." I texted back, "So am I." Then I packed a small black bag. Inside, hidden camera pen, voice recorder, clean shirt, and the original wedding ring I hadn't worn in 7 years. I wasn't coming back as her husband. I was walking in as her reckoning. They say walls can't talk, but mine had been listening for a decade, and now they would finally speak for me. And the plan had to be perfect, because people like Emily don't slip when they're scared. They only slip when they feel completely safe. So I made her feel safe. I made her feel like she'd already won. First, I reset the home Wi-Fi, installed 2 hidden routers, one inside the thermostat, one in the garage opener. Each streamed directly to a secure drive via cloud sync. Every room, every conversation, every lie. Next, I staged myself, returned to the chair, let my posture slump, stopped asking questions, took the pills, but swapped them for vitamin capsules I'd made myself. Nodded when she mentioned doctors, laughed weakly when she made jokes about strong women and helpless husbands. She was relaxed again, too relaxed. Then came the key part. I told her, "I've been thinking. Maybe it's time to sign the trust over to you." She blinked, too fast. You want to do that?" I nodded. "You've taken care of everything. You should have the legal control. I don't want to be a burden anymore." She kissed my forehead like a snake kissing its prey. "You're not a burden, Nathan. You're my purpose." That night, she called her mother. I recorded it. "He's ready. He even offered it himself. I'll set the appointment at Langford's. Make sure the signatures are in place. By this time next week, we're done." Her mother. "You've done beautifully, Em." "He never suspected a thing." Emily. "No, Mom. He never even fought back." I listened to that call twice, not for proof, for fuel. Over the next 2 days, I trained harder. I walked the halls of that house at night, memorizing every board that creaked, every camera angle. And then, on the 3rd night, I set the stage. I moved the living room mirror to face the couch, re-angled the lamp to cast shadow over the corner she always stood in, placed the trust document on the table. She thought she was coming home to victory. I was preparing her confession. When she walked through the door, she saw me sitting in the chair, exactly as I'd been 10 years ago. "Hey, love," she said. "You ready to sign?" I nodded. "Just let me read it one more time." She poured me tea, smiled, sat close, too close. Her fingers rested lightly on my leg, not knowing that I could feel it. She leaned in and whispered, "It's okay, Nathan. You're safe now." That was her mistake, because I stood up, slow, quiet, intentional. Her smile froze. "What are you—" I turned toward the mirror, pointed to the blinking red light hidden in the frame. "Say hi to the camera." She backed away, knocking over the tea. I didn't shout, didn't curse. I just pressed play on the speaker behind me. Her voice, from the phone call the night before, filled the room. "He's ready. He even offered it himself. By this time next week, we're done." Emily paled. "Nathan, wait. Let me explain." I shook my head. "You've been explaining for 10 years. Tonight, I speak." I stepped aside, revealing the second camera behind the lamp. And next to it, my attorney. "We've been recording for 40 minutes, he said calmly. "This entire interaction, including the forged documents on that table." Emily's mouth opened. Nothing came out. I turned to her, voice low. "You thought you'd buried me, but I was just building the case." The hardest part wasn't standing. It wasn't walking. or fighting through the pain, or learning how to fake weakness while building strength. The hardest part was pretending I still loved her long enough to get what I needed. But now the pretense was over. Emily sat on the couch, motionless, pale, trapped between two cameras and the truth. Across the room, my attorney, Daniel Cross, spoke calmly. We've collected hours of evidence, audio, video, testimony, medical forgeries, enough to put your entire little empire under review. She blinked, swallowed, then tried to smile. Nathan, baby, I did it because I didn't want to lose you. I let the silence speak for me. That night, I invited everyone to dinner. Emily, her mother, Helen Crawford, and yes, Dr. Wesley Langford. I told them it was a reconciliation meal, that I was ready to let go of the past and move forward. They believed me, because for 10 years, I'd been predictable. And that predictability was my weapon. They arrived at 7 p.m. Emily wore soft blue, her forgiveness color. Helen wore pearls and condescension. Langford wore a confident smirk. I greeted them at the door, standing. Helen gasped. "You're walking?" Langford narrowed his eyes. "When did this happen?" I smiled. "Oh, around the time you stopped pretending to be a doctor." Dinner was served. Nothing fancy, just wine, steak, silence. A long table, and even longer pauses. I let them talk. About trust, regret, recovery. I nodded, let them dig their own grave with every sentence. Then I tapped my glass. I'd like to play something. A flat screen lit up behind me. I played 4 clips. Emily crushing pills into my tea. Helen on a phone call discussing financial cleanup. Langford reviewing a fake medical file while saying, "The slower he goes, the cleaner the exit." And my own steps, recorded secretly, walking down the hallway for the first time. Silence. No tears, no screams, just faces collapsing in real time. "You didn't just steal my legs," I said. "You stole 10 years of my name, my future, my humanity." Emily stood, desperate. "Nathan, we can explain." "You already did," I cut her off. "On tape, repeatedly." Langford reached for his coat. Daniel stepped forward. "Leave it. You'll be needing less personal property where you're going." Helen turned to me, venom in her voice. "You think this will stick? You think they'll believe a man with a medical history over a licensed doctor?" I walked right up to her, stared into her eyes. "That's the thing about liars," I whispered. "They forget who's been recording." The front door opened. 2 uniformed officers stepped inside. "We have warrants for the arrest of Emily Green, Helen Crawford, and Wesley Langford." Emily looked at me, tears welling up. "You were supposed to love me." I stared back, voice flat. I did, until I remembered what love isn't. 3 weeks after the arrests, I sat in a cold courtroom, spine straight, feet firm on the ground. I wasn't here as a victim. I was here as a witness to my own resurrection. Emily pled not guilty. So did Helen and Langford. But the DA didn't blink, because the evidence wasn't just hearsay. It was audio, video, transaction records, and medical fraud. It wasn't a case. It was a demolition. I didn't watch Emily during the trial. She tried to make eye contact, every single day, but I never looked back, because the man she knew, the one she drugged, shaved, and rolled out like a trophy, he didn't exist anymore. The charges included intentional poisoning, attempted medical fraud, conspiracy to commit grand larceny, abuse of a vulnerable adult, forgery of legal and financial documents, and most damning of all, attempted manslaughter by progressive incapacitation, a charge I didn't even know existed. But apparently, when you slowly destroy a person over time, the law finds a name for it. In parallel, my attorney filed a petition to reverse all transfers initiated under duress: the trust, the health proxy, the financial POA, all of it revoked. The judge signed the order without hesitation. Mr. Green, I commend your clarity of mind and strength of will. You are fully restored. That night, I visited the office of my former company. 10 years ago, I'd built the server infrastructure that scaled them nationwide. Then they bought me out for health reasons. Now, the CEO offered me a handshake. We've created a new role, one built around ethics in tech and human resilience. We'd like you to lead it. I didn't say yes. Not yet. Because before I took my future back, I had to bury the past. I met with Daniel at the law office. He handed me a folder. Inside, a revised will, one Emily had secretly drafted, meant to trigger on my death. It named her as sole inheritor, Helen as executor, Langford as medical verifier. They were going to erase me like I was a used ID. So I wrote my own will, one that left everything to charity, to patients like me, to people without voices or legs or proof, to those who'd been made prisoners in their own skin. I signed it, dated it, and then I burned the original Emily-crafted version piece by piece on the patio grill. Smoke rose like closure. A week later, I received a letter, handwritten, from prison. No return name, just an initial E. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I just need to know if the man I once married still exists inside you. I folded the letter in half, tossed it into the fire, and whispered, "No. He died the day you decided I was worth more broken." The first morning I woke up alone, I made coffee. I stood barefoot on the wood floor of the cabin. No pills, no wheelchair, no whispers behind closed doors, just silence. And for the first time in 10 years, it wasn't threatening, it was empty. For they say justice brings peace, but they never tell you how quiet peace is, how cold, how lonely. Emily was sentenced to 18 years, eligible for parole in 12. Helen got 10, reduced to 7. Langford lost his license and got 6 in federal prison. Everyone said I won, but standing there, mug in hand, staring out at the fog-covered woods, I couldn't tell if I'd escaped or just built a new prison with a better view. I started sorting through old boxes, keepsakes from the man I used to be. Photos of me before the chair, before the pills, before my home became a cage and my wife became my captor. Then I found one I hadn't seen in years. It was my mother, smiling, strong, taken the summer before she died. She was the only one who never doubted me, even when my body first started to fail. Don't let other people's truths overwrite your own, she once told me. I never understood it until I lived 10 years inside someone else's script. So I drove 3 hours west, gravel roads, fading sunlight, to the cemetery. Her headstone was simple, understated, Eleanor Green, 1950 to 2009. Still here, I sat beside it, and I cried. Not like the movies, not in big dramatic sobs, just quiet, exhausted, real. "Mom," I said, "I got justice, but I don't feel free. They're gone. I'm standing again, but I still feel like a ghost." The wind moved through the trees like a whisper. No answer came, but I didn't need one. I laid a fresh flower on her grave, a single white lily, and beside it, I placed the broken wristwatch Emily gave me the day I lost my legs. It had never worked, not once, just like the love it was supposed to symbolize. "This was her story," I said softly, "but I'm done being her character. Now I write my own." As I turned to leave, I saw someone had scratched something small onto the edge of the headstone, barely visible. 3 letters, NG. I smiled, because maybe that's what justice really is. Not revenge, not punishment, but simply a name returned to its rightful owner. I moved to a town where no one knew my name. No pity, no whispers, no headlines, just strangers who held doors open without looking twice at my legs. I worked part-time at a bookstore, started journaling again, learned how to sleep without checking locks twice. I was rebuilding, not a house, not a career, a man. One afternoon, the store owner handed me an envelope. "Dropped off this morning," he said. "No return address." Inside was a folded letter. The handwriting was shaky, but familiar. It wasn't from Emily, or Helen, or any of the people who'd hurt me. It was from someone who only ever knew the version of me they were allowed to see. "Dear Nathan, I don't know if you'll read this. Maybe you won't even remember me, but I remember you. I remember how you smiled when I graduated, how you gave me my first set of tools, how you told me, you don't have to be like anyone else. You just have to be better than your worst day. They told me you were sick, that you were bitter, that you wanted to be alone. But I never believed that. You were the kindest man I ever met. If there's any of him left, I just wanted to say thank you for not turning into them." Signed, Cameron. Cameron. He was the neighbor's kid, a teenager when I went into the chair. Used to come by and help with groceries, listen to my lectures on engineering, and pretend not to notice when I couldn't hold a screwdriver anymore. I hadn't thought of him in years. He had no part in the lie, but he still saw me. The part that even I had forgotten existed. I walked to the bridge outside town that evening, looked down at the river below. The air smelled like rain. I pulled Emily's last letter from my pocket, the one she sent from prison weeks ago, still unopened. I tore it in half, let the wind take it. Then I unfolded Cameron's again, read every word. That was the only story I needed now. So back home, I sat down at my desk, opened a blank page, and wrote, 10 years ago, I was silenced. This is the sound of my return. I didn't write about Emily, Not about the chair, not the poison, not the courtroom. I wrote about hope, about fire and silence, about being a man they buried alive and walking out of the grave on his own 2 feet. Because I realized this wasn't revenge. This was the exit.